Hey everybody, this is Robert Burke, and today I wanted to show you the brand new game that we have developed called Operation Faust. The Faust stands for Fine Art Underground and Stolen Treasures. So this game is a bluffing game, and it takes place in occupied France during World War II. And you are an art patron who is trying to save very famous pieces of art from Hitler's Third Reich, who is plundering the museums and the private collections of Europe to try to collect this artwork for Germany. So this was a theme that my father-in-law had. He is a big World War II buff, and I love the idea this theme. So the theme really kind of started this game. And then that movie Monuments Men came out, and it came out after he told me about this idea. At first I was like, oh no, I can't do the game now. But then I was like, well, of course I can do the game. Maybe the movie will actually help. But I don't think the movie got a lot of buzz. But I think that period in history is a very interesting one, and I think it lends itself very well to a bluffing game. I'd also been wanting to do a bluffing game that did not include player elimination. So this game is very thematic as a bluffing game, but it also has no player elimination. That was important to me. So this is a bluffing game that has more meat to it than some of the other popular bluffing games that are out there right now that are very simple and very fun, and I love a lot of the very quick bluffing games that are out there now. What I tried to do here is take it a step further, tie the theme in a little bit more, and not have any player elimination. So those were really the design goals here. So I've got this game available as a print and play version. I printed all these cards, and these cards use historically accurate photographs. Right now, this will not be the final product. We have an artist, a Brazilian artist, who did the Brazilian version of F.A.U.S.T, and I saw his work, and I love his work. So I'm hiring him to do the final artwork on these cards, and here's some of his work here. But this prototype uses these historically accurate photographs from the time period that we are involved in the game. So these were printed on the Game Crafter. So you're welcome to print the cards yourself like this, or an easier way to do it is you could just print the files on your home printer. This is just regular paper. You put another card inside a sleeve, and you put your cut piece of paper in there, and you can print the game out and play it by doing this. A very easy way to create the game. I tried to make it so you can print it at home very easily. There's not a lot of cards. You'll only have to print out a few sheets of cards that you need to cut out. Then there are some player aids. They're just regular standard sheets of paper that you can print that have all the roles on plots on one side and what they do and the percentages. And on the back side, it has some details on the historical figures that are the role cards in the game. So that's very interesting too. So those you just need to print out, very easy. Then you just print out the rules. Then the only thing you need is some money. I've got some poker chips here that count as ones and fives. You could use nickels and pennies. That would work just fine. You could use paper money. I would recommend against that, but you could use paper money if that's all you have. You could use chits. You can steal some money from your other games if you want. But if you don't have poker chips or any of that, nickels and dimes will work just fine in this game. So I'm going to give you the link if you want to print it out yourself. I would love for you to try it. I'll talk a little bit about at the end of the video, but let me show you how the game plays first. So the first thing we've got here are some optional roll cards. And these roll cards are, historic figures, and these are not required in the game, but they do add a little extra element to it, and I like them very much. The game plays from 2 to 8 players, so there are 8 roll cards here. 2 of the roll cards you're only going to use if there are 7 or 8 players. Okay, so if you're using less than that, you need to take the 2 labeled for 7 and 8 out. So you randomly deal these out, and they're going to give each player a secret special ability that they can use in the game. Some of them provide a different win condition for that player. Some of them give them some special benefit that has to do with the game. But they're all very unique, and they give a little asymmetry to the game. So those are the role cards, very simple. Each player gets one at the beginning of the game if you're going to use them. Now, every player is going to start with 5 money. So this is called occupation currency. And the final product, I think I'm going to try to use the actual occupation currency that was used in occupied France during World War II. So it's historically accurate and interesting. So every player is going to start with 5 occupation currency. The goal of the game is to get enough occupation currency to buy art on the black market. Remember, you're trying to save artwork from the Third Reich. So the art cards are here. So when you get 10 money, one of the actions you can do on your turn is to buy one piece of art from the top of the art pile for 10 OC, which is occupation currency. So the art cards are all very different, and they have a different black market value on the bottom. So this one here by Henry Matisse has a black market value of $250,000. So the player who collects $1 million in artwork first, on a black market value of $1 million or more, immediately wins the game. Now you'll see this one is labeled degenerate. So about half the art cards are labeled degenerate. This is modern art that Hitler did not like. He referred to it as degenerate. They actually had a degenerate art show in Germany to make a mockery of a lot of the modern artists that today are very much appreciated and priceless and hang in the museums of the world. But degenerate art is part of this game. And degenerate art still counts towards the million if you have degenerate art, but it makes it more easily confiscated by Hitler's Third Reich. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. See, this one is it's worth $200,000 on the black market value. And it's not degenerate. All right, so that's just a regular piece of art. So these all range from 200,000 up to 500,000. And I want to show you one more thing. Here's a forgery. See, this one is a degenerate and a forgery. This Edvard Munch painting The Dead Mother. Now, if you have a forgery, you cannot win the game. All right, so there's a couple ways you can deal with that. One is there's an action that you can take on your turn called clean, where you can pay 5 money back to the bank and deal this back into the art pile to get rid of it. Or the better option is you can purchase one of these forged document cards. And the forged document cards are going to be available for purchase, but there's going to be, every game it's one less than the number of players. So there's not going to be enough of these for every single player. So if you want one of these, you probably want to try to get one early. So if you pay 6 money to the bank, you can get one of these forged document cards. This will cover a forgery and make that value count. So these can be very important. And there's 18 art cards, and there are 4 forgeries in there. And you can see this one's 400,000 black market value. So this one, you would definitely want to get one of those forged document cards to cover up. However, you've got to be careful because there's ways that other players can get your art from you, trade their art for your art, or they can look at your art cards, and if it's a degenerate or a forgery, in the case of one of the cards, lets them look at your cards, and if it's a forgery, they get to keep it. So you've got to be careful about what you're revealing about the art cards that you hold. All right, so we'll get to the meat of the game now. Basically, here on the player sheet, you will see there are 6 actions that you can take on your turn. On your turn, you can fundraise, which is just take 1 money from the bank. You can recruit. You can pay 5 occupation currency to the bank to take another plot card. Everybody's going to start the game with 2 of these, or you can spend money to buy another one. The hand limits change depending on the number of players. You can purchase art. As I said, it's 10 money to purchase a piece of art on the black market. You can forge. I talked about that. That's buying one of these forged documents. You can clean. I talked about that. That's where you pay 5 money to get rid of a forgery and deal it back into the art pile. Or you can plot. Now, plot is when you play one of your art cards. Every player is going to start with two plot cards in their hand. And again, you can buy more and add them to your hand, but there is a limit depending on the number of players. So these cards, I'll go through the abilities really quick. The player's reference sheet, this is obviously hasn't gone through graphic design or anything, but it's very usable and easy to print for the print and play version. You'll see the French resistance here. There on the right-hand column, it tells you how many of those cards are in the game. So there's more French resistance in the game than anything. 38.48% of the cards in the plot cards in the game are French resistance. You'll also notice that there is a hand and a table ability for this card. So you'll see the hand and the table are also on the card itself, and it lists exactly what the ability is on the card. But just like in a lot of bluffing games, you don't have to have the card to claim the ability. You can lie. All right. So the hand ability means everywhere you see a hand on the player sheet or the card means that if you claim that ability, you can keep the card in your hand. You can continue to use it over and over again until you're challenged. So in the case of the French resistance, it allows you to take 2 occupation currency from the bank plus 1 extra occupation currency for each additional resistance member you hold. So if I had 3 resistance cards in my hand, I could claim 3 resistance and I would get 4 money. I get 2 for the first one and an additional money for each additional resistance member in my hand. And I get to keep them. So I could take 4 money every turn until somebody calls me out. Also, there is a table ability. That means that I have to, when I claim the table ability, I have to place the card face down on the table. And at the end of my turn, that card is discarded. Whether I am challenged or not, it is going out of my hand. Now, whenever you drop below 2 cards, you always get to draw back up to 2. You're always going to have a minimum of 2 cards. But the French Resistance table ability lets you draw 2 new plot cards from the deck, add them to your hand, and then you have to discard a card from your hand. So basically it lets you, it's a way for you to get cards that you're looking for and kind of cycle through the deck. And since there's a lot of them in the card, people are less likely to challenge the French Resistance if you're looking for cards that way. The Art Broker, I'll show you the Art Broker here. Let me get the cards. There's the Art Broker. And you'll see the Art Broker has a hand ability of just taking 3 occupation currency from the bank. So better than the French Resistance. And the table ability allows the Art Broker to trade any art card that you hold for a random art card held by another player. So this is where if you have a forged painting or a painting that's not worth a lot, or maybe you know a player and you think they have the Mona Lisa, which is worth $500,000, you can play this Art Broker, you could table it, and you can trade art with another player. So there is a little memory element in the game and a deduction element where you're trying to find out where the valuable artwork is, who holds it. You're looking for tells to see if people have good art or not. There's ways you can look at other people's art cards to see what they have. So the Art Broker is a very important role. Also, we have the Purchase Agent. Now, the Purchase Agent is a role that lets you buy art at a discount. So if you have a Purchase Agent, you can pay 6 money to buy a piece of art off of the art pile instead of 10. Or you can also, like the Art Broker, trade a piece of your art for an art by another player, but you also have to give that player 4 money. So not as good, but still a way that you can get rid of art or try to capture art that you think is valuable. So that's the Purchase Agent. Then we have the Lawyer. There's only 1 Lawyer card in the game, and the Lawyer card is interesting. And I should talk about what happens when you lose a challenge. So that's a very important part of this game. So again, you can lie. Any player can lie. I could say, I have the Art Broker, I'm taking 3 money. And I get 3 money. Now, any player can challenge me. They could say, no, you don't have the Art Broker. I don't believe you. So what I would have to do is if I did have the Art Broker, I would show them my Art Broker card. That would be discarded, and I would draw a new plot card. But I also, when the player who challenged me and lost, I get all their money. If I did not have the Art Broker, the person who challenged me wins, and they get all my money. So in this way, there's no player elimination, right? Because you're trying to get the challenge is a way to move money around the table, to buy art cards and win the game. So everybody stays in the game the whole time. Now, another reason I really like this mechanic is that the risk reward scales. So the more money you have, the less likely you are to challenge somebody. All right. So when you don't have a lot of money, and somebody claims a card that's very valuable, I don't think there's no cards that are really overpowered in the game. They all just fit a certain role and niche within the game. But if somebody claims the lawyer, for example, they take half the money after any challenge. So let's say that Bill claims the art broker and takes 3, and Susan says, no, you don't have the art broker, and he doesn't have the art broker. Susan gets all of his money. Let's say he had 4 money. I claim the lawyer. I get half of that, so I get 2 money. So the lawyer, there's only one of these, so anytime there's a challenge, you get half, which is pretty thematic as far as lawyers go, I guess. So one more important rule in the game, and this is all explained in the rules that you can print out, is to make a challenge, you have to have at least 2 occupation currency. All right. If you have less than 2, you can't even make a challenge. All right. So that's something to keep in mind, right? Like if somebody plays, let me show you another card. I'll show you the Call to Arms. A Call to Arms card is a pretty powerful card because it's only got a table ability, so you have to discard it. So once you play this, every player has to give you 2 money. But there's also a card called the Allies, which will block Call to Arms. It will not block it, but it makes you, if you have this card, you're immune to the Call to Arms, and you're immune to the ERR, which is another card that allows players to steal from another player. So this card will protect you from that. But if somebody plays the ERR and doesn't have 2 money, for example, I could say I have the Allies, even if I don't have the Allies, because that player cannot challenge me. So, and a player, maybe the other players, maybe there's some other players that don't have any money, and maybe there's a couple players that have a lot of money, and they might not want to risk all that money to call me out because I'm blocking the Call to Arms. So the money really does change the risk reward on how apt you are to call somebody out or not. So it introduces a really cool dynamic into the game. Some more. So that was the lawyer. They get to take half of any challenge. The Call to Arms I just talked about. The Allies. Let me go back to the Allies and show you exactly what the Allies do. There's the ERR. Find some Allies cards. There they are. So here are the Allies. So the hand ability of the Allies is they can take 3 money from the bank. So very good. They can also block the ERR and the Call to Arms, like I talked about. So you're immune to people stealing money from you, basically. And they also can place the table the card and put it face down, and then they can look at the cards of art cards of any other player. If that player has a forgery, you can confiscate it. All right, so it's kind of that the Allies come in and say, okay, we need to check your art. Oh, this one's a forgery, we're taking it. So that's where you have to be careful about when you buy these forged document cards. If you buy an art card and then the next turn you buy a forged document, you're more suspect to hold a forgery than someone who didn't do that. So it might be a good play to buy this before you buy your art. So that's the Allies. Then we have the ERR. So the ERR are kind of the Third Reich equivalent, and this is the Einstab Reichsleiter Rosenberg. This was the ERR was the unit on Hitler's Third Reich that was responsible for plundering European treasures, art treasures, and valuables during the occupation. And what their ability is they can take 3 occupation currency from any player. But again, if you have the Allies, you can block that action. There's only Um, 3 of these in the game, and there are only 2 ally cards in the game. There's only 1 lawyer in the game. The purchase agent, there are 5. Art broker, there are 3. And in the French resistance, there are 10. But their table ability lets you, again, the table ability is you place it face down, and then it's discarded at the end of your turn. It lets you look at the top art card in the pile, or you can pick an art card that any other player holds. You look at it. If it says degenerate, you get to keep it. This one does not say degenerate, so I would have to put it back. So, again, Hitler did not like modern art that he considered degenerate. So if you find a piece of degenerate art, you can keep it as long as you get rid of that ERR. So that's it. So that's all the different plot cards in here. So you're basically trying to play money, play cards to get occupation currency. You're trying to steal occupation currency from other players. You're trying to bluff your way to get as much art as you can. You're trying to increase the value of your art by trading it with other players. You're trying to get valuable art and get rid of less valuable art. You are trying to deal with forgeries and degenerate pieces of art. And the game really has been a lot of fun. We've play tested the heck out of this now, and now I want to open it up to wider blind play testing. So if any of you guys want to print this out, again, it's not that hard to do. If you have some card sleeves, it's very easy to do. It's very easy to print, and just some nickels and pennies or some poker chips, and you can start playing the game. If you do that and give me some feedback on it, you'll be included as a play tester in the final retail version of the game when we release it. Your name will be in there as a play tester. I'll keep you up to date on the game if you do it. I'd really love to get your feedback on this game. Now again, the art and graphic design has not been done, so I'm not really looking for feedback on any of that stuff because I have yet to do that. But as far as the gameplay mechanics, I'm looking especially for any ambiguities in the rules. If you have any questions or something's not clear, so I can fix that kind of stuff and make the rules crystal clear for people. It's not a very complex game, but I do want to get all the kind of blind playtesting feedback that I can. So if you guys can do that, I would really appreciate it, and you'll be in the rule book. I'm giving this away for free as a print and play version for a limited amount of time until we're done with blind playtesting. Then once we get the art done, I'm going to have the graphic design done, and then we're going to start getting the game out to reviewers and start thinking about kickstarting it. But I really hope you'll give it a try. It plays between 2 and 8 players, but the feeling of the game changes a lot. With 2 and 3 players, it's really quick, and it's much more strategic. As you get more players, I think it gets more interactive, right? It can be more fun with the right group of people, especially if you've got, between 4 and 8 people. The bigger it gets, the more crazy it can get. But it works, I think, very well from 2 to 8 players. So I'm really looking for feedback on all those different player counts as well. So thanks for taking a look at this. If you have any questions on the rules, if you have any, there's also you'll see a file in the folder that kind of gives you the instructions on how to create the game from the print and play. If you have any questions on how to do that, if you have any questions on the gameplay, just get in touch with me. I'll be glad to help you. And thanks for taking a look. Again, my name is Robert Burke, and the game is called Operation Faust.